Achieng was just 14 years old, but her dreams were bigger than the dusty town of Kitui where she lived. Every day after school, she would rush home, not to rest or play, but to read. Books were her escape, her safe place. She didn't just like reading, she loved it. To her, every page was a promise, a step closer to her dream of becoming a lawyer one day. She imagined herself standing in court, strong and confident, fighting for justice. Her love for books came from her late mother. Before she passed away, her mother had one last wish, for Achieng to go to school, to learn, and to chase her dreams. "Promise me you'll never stop reading," she had whispered, her voice weak but full of hope. Achieng promised, and she never broke that promise. She read under trees, by candlelight, and even when others laughed at her. While other kids played or rested, Achieng studied. Her small wooden shelf was filled with second-hand books, some borrowed, some gifted, and one very special diary that belonged to her mother. That diary was her treasure. Inside, her mother had written her thoughts, her hopes, and her deep love for Achieng. In a world where many girls were forced to drop out of school, Achieng held onto her dream tightly. She believed that if she worked hard enough, books would take her places she had never even seen on a map. No matter how tough life got, she had her books, and in them, she found strength, comfort, and a future waiting to be written. Everything started to change when Achieng's father, Baraka, brought a new woman into their home. Her name was Nuru. She wore a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, and spoke with a voice that sounded sweet but felt cold. At first, Nuru acted kind. She cooked meals, asked Achieng about school, and even helped her braid her hair. For a moment, Achieng thought maybe things would be okay, that maybe this woman could help fill the empty space her mother had left behind. But that hope didn't last long. It started with small things. Nuru would complain about the books lying around the house. Always reading, never helping, she would mutter just loud enough for Achieng to hear. Then, she began locking up the small living room where Achieng used to study. "You can read later," she'd say, even when Achieng had homework. Her tone got sharper, her smiles rarer. Achieng noticed how Nuru's eyes would narrow whenever Baraka praised her schoolwork or when teachers visited to talk about her good grades. Jealousy began to grow like a shadow. Nuru didn't like that Achieng was smart. She didn't like that Baraka still kept his late wife's photo on the wall, or that Achieng's name was often spoken with pride. Every time someone said, "This girl is going places," Nuru's face would tighten just a little. Achieng tried to stay quiet, tried to stay out of trouble, but deep down, she felt it. The love in their home was no longer the same. Her father didn't seem to notice. He was busy trying to keep peace in the house, working long hours to support them. Achieng didn't want to cause more problems, so she kept her thoughts to herself. She kept reading when she could, in secret corners and under her blanket with a flashlight. But the warm home she once knew had turned cold, and the woman who pretended to care was starting to show her true face. It was a hot afternoon when Achieng walked home from school, tired but excited. She had just gotten top marks in her English test, and she couldn't wait to reread her mother's old diary, her favourite way to feel close to her again. But as she got closer to the house, something felt wrong. The air smelled of smoke, real smoke. Her heart started to race. She dropped her school bag and ran. Her eyes widened in shock. Right in the middle of their small backyard was a fire pit, and in it, ashes, burnt papers, blackened covers, and pieces of what used to be her books. All of them, her school books, her storybooks, even the diary her late mother left behind, gone, just like that. Standing beside the fire was Nuru, her stepmother, holding a long stick, pushing the last pieces into the flames. Achieng stared, frozen, not believing what she was seeing. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Her hands shook. Her heart felt like it had been torn apart. Nuru turned to her, smiling, not kindly, but cruelly. "Books can't cook food," she said, as if that explained everything. Then she walked away like nothing had happened. Achieng fell to her knees near the ashes. She didn't care about the smoke, the heat, or the dust in her eyes. Her world had just burned. Those books weren't just pages and paper. They were her dreams, her safe space, her mother's voice, her hope. Now all of it was turned into grey dust. She sat there for a long time, not moving, not crying, just silence. Inside, Everything felt broken. How do you fight for your future when someone burns the very tools you need to reach it? That day, something inside Achieng changed forever. The fire didn't just burn her books. It lit a pain so deep, even words couldn't explain it. That night, Achieng sat quietly at the small wooden table, her plate untouched. The food was there, warm and ready, but her appetite was gone. Inside, her heart felt heavy, crushed by the weight of the day. She wanted to cry out, to scream, to ask why her stepmother would do something so cruel, but the tears only came out in silent waves. She couldn't find the words to explain the emptiness burning inside her. Her father, Baraka, sat across from her. He stared down at his own food, but didn't say a word. The house was filled with silence, the kind that screams louder than any argument. Achieng watched him closely, hoping for a sign that he would stand up for her, that he would protect her dreams, like her mother had asked. But there was nothing. No comforting words, no angry outburst, no hug. She wondered if he had already made his choice, if he had chosen Nuru and her cold heart over his daughter's future. Maybe he was afraid, or maybe he didn't know how to fight against the woman who had come into their lives. It hurt more than the burning books. It was like losing her father's love, piece by piece, along with every charred page. Achieng pushed her food around the plate, pretending to eat while her mind raced with questions. What would she do now? How could she keep dreaming when everything she loved was taken away? The tears came again, but this time she let them fall, quietly, like ashes settling after a fire. That night she learned a hard truth. Sometimes the people you love the most can stay silent when you need them the most. But deep inside, a small spark of hope still flickered. She promised herself that one day she would rise from these ashes, no matter what. For now, though, she stayed silent and let the tears fall, mourning not just the books, but the safe home she once had. A few days after the fire, Baraka was cleaning the house. He was still quiet, lost in his own thoughts. As he moved the burnt bookshelf, something caught his eye. A piece of paper, torn and folded, hiding behind the ashes and broken wood. Curious, he picked it up and carefully opened it. It was Achieng's school report. His eyes scanned the page slowly, reading the neat letters and numbers, straight A's. Every subject, the kind of report any parent would be proud of. His heart tightened. He remembered the promise he made to his late wife, her soft voice, her last words before she died. "Promise me you'll protect her dreams, Baraka, no matter what." Baraka had been so focused on keeping the peace at home, he had almost forgotten that promise. Looking at the report, he saw Achieng not just as his daughter, but as the bright, determined girl who still had a future worth fighting for. She wasn't just a child caught between two worlds. She was a shining star, working hard to make her dreams come true. For the first time since Nuru arrived, anger and guilt rose inside him. How had he let her destroy something so precious? How had he stayed silent when his daughter needed him most? That night, Baraka sat alone in the dark, clutching the torn report. He whispered to himself, "I will protect her dreams. I will not let the fire win." That secret report changed everything. It reminded him who his daughter really was, a girl full of hope, courage, and strength. And it made him realize he had to stand up, not just as a father, but as a man who would fight for his daughter's future, no matter what it took. Just before the sun rose, Achieng felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She opened her eyes slowly and saw her father standing beside her bed, a serious look on his face. "Wake up," he said softly. "Pack your things. We're leaving." Still half asleep, she sat up, confused. "Where are we going?" she asked. Baraka didn't explain much. "Just trust me," he said. "We're going to Nairobi." Achieng's heart started racing. Nairobi. That was a place she had only heard about in stories and school books. A big, busy city full of people, buildings, and opportunities. She had never been there. She couldn't understand why they were leaving so suddenly. Was he running away from Nuru? Was he giving up everything? And most of all, was this really happening? She packed in silence, her hands shaking, a few clothes, her school bag, and the only thing that survived the fire, a tiny photo of her mother. She didn't ask more questions. Something in her father's voice told her this wasn't a time for questions, it was a time to move. They left the house quietly. The morning air was cold and the sky still dark. Nuru was still asleep, unaware that a new chapter was beginning. As they walked down the dirt path to the bus stop, Achieng kept glancing at her father. He didn't say much, but his eyes were full of something she hadn't seen in a while: determination. On the bus, Achieng looked out the window as the fields turned into towns, and the towns turned into highways. Her heart was full of emotions: fear, hope, confusion. She didn't know what waited for her in Nairobi, but one thing was clear: this wasn't just a trip. Her father wasn't running away. He was running towards something, a new beginning, a new chance. Achieng didn't have all the answers yet, but deep inside, something told her this journey wasn't an end. It was the start of the life her mother had always dreamed for. When they reached Nairobi, Achieng thought maybe they were just visiting someone or staying for a few days. But Baraka had a plan, a quiet, powerful plan that he had been holding close to his heart. He took her by the hand and walked with her through busy streets and tall gates until they stood in front of a beautiful school. It was big, clean, and filled with students in neat uniforms. Achieng had never seen anything like it. "This is your new school," Baraka said softly. Achieng blinked, not sure if she had heard him right. "Mine?" she whispered. He nodded. "You belong here." She couldn't believe it. Nairobi's top boarding school. It felt like a dream. Too big, too bright, too far from the ashes she had come from. Later that day, as she sat in the small office filling out forms, she noticed something missing. Her father's motorbike, the one he used for work, the one he loved. It was gone. Baraka had sold it, his only real asset, the only thing he owned that brought money into the house. He sold it without a second thought, just to pay for Achieng's first term. When she asked him why, he looked at her with calm, steady eyes and said, "Books will rebuild what fire tried to destroy." Those words stayed with her. He didn't shout. He didn't fight Nuru back with anger. This was his silent revenge, giving his daughter the wings to fly when someone tried to keep her on the ground. He couldn't save the books that burned, but he could give her new ones. He could give her a future. Achieng hugged him tightly, her eyes full of tears. For the first time in weeks, her heart felt full. Not because everything was perfect, but because someone still believed in her. She knew this was the beginning of something powerful. Her dreams weren't gone. They were just moving to a new home. 3 years passed, and everything changed for Achieng. The shy, confused girl who once had nothing but a dream was now a star. She had worked harder than anyone, studying late into the night, pushing herself even when it felt like the world was against her. And it paid off. Achieng topped the national exams, a feat so impressive it made headlines. Her story spread quickly. Social media buzzed with her name. People from all over the country were inspired by the girl who had lost everything but refused to give up. Interviews started pouring in. Journalists wanted to hear about her journey, her struggle, and her incredible rise from the ashes. Scholarships flooded in from top universities, and suddenly, the doors she once thought were closed wide open. Achieng was invited to speak at conferences, hailed as a symbol of hope and resilience. Everyone wanted to know how she did it, how she overcame the pain of losing her books, her home, and even the love of her father. She spoke about her journey with grace, but inside, she never forgot where she came from. She remembered the smell of smoke that filled her childhood home, the look of betrayal in her father's eyes, and the quiet pain she had carried for so long. But she also remembered the love and sacrifices her father made, his quiet strength when everything seemed to be falling apart. That kept her going. While the world celebrated her success, Achieng stayed grounded. She knew this wasn't just about passing exams or winning awards. It was about something much deeper, about proving to herself and to everyone who doubted her that nothing could crush her spirit. Not fire, not fear, not even the coldness of a stepmother. As she received her awards and recognition, Achieng kept her mother's diary close, the pages worn but full of wisdom. She would never forget the ashes of Kitui, because they were the reason she had become who she was. They reminded her of the strength she had to find within herself when everything was taken away. And with every step forward, she carried those ashes with her, as fuel for the journey ahead. When Achieng returned to Kitui, the air felt different. The dusty roads, the old houses, even the quiet trees along the path, everything looked the same, but she was no longer the same girl who had left in silence years ago. She had come back, not as a broken child, but as a strong young woman, with a story that the world now listened to. She walked into the local girls' school, the one she used to pass every day on her way home. The students were already waiting for her, whispering with excitement. They had heard about her, the girl who had nothing, the one whose books were burned, the one who still rose and topped national exams. But now, she was right in front of them, smiling, alive and real. As she stood in front of the classroom, holding the microphone with calm hands, she saw herself in those girls, young, hopeful, and afraid. Many of them came from homes where dreams were not always welcome. Some hid their books under mattresses. Others read in secret, late at night, worried their parents or siblings might say, "Books won't cook food." Achieng took a deep breath and began to speak. She didn't use big words or fancy stories. She spoke from the heart. She told them about her mother's diary, about the fire, about the silence at the dinner table. She told them how her father eventually chose her dreams over comfort, and how pain gave her strength she didn't know she had. "You may feel small now," she told them. "You may be hiding your books, but one day, those books will be your wings." The room was quiet. No noise, no whispers, just full hearts and shining eyes. After her talk, several girls came up to her one by one. Some hugged her, some cried. One girl whispered, "I hide my books too." Achieng smiled and gently said, "Don't hide them forever. Your dreams deserve life." That day, Achieng didn't just return home. She lit a fire, not of destruction but of hope. And this time it would not burn dreams. It would help them grow. The hall was packed. Cameras flashed, people clapped, and the lights above the stage felt warm on Achieng's skin. She stood there, a little nervous, but mostly proud. It was the biggest moment of her life, speaking at the National Youth Summit. People from all over the country were watching, and the live stream was already buzzing online. But she wasn't thinking about any of that. She was thinking about her journey, the ashes, the silence, and the dream that somehow survived it all. She stepped up to the microphone and took a deep breath. Her voice was calm, steady, and full of emotion. "I lost my books," she said, pausing for a second. "But I did not lose my mind." The room went quiet. "I lost my mother. I lost my home. I lost everything I thought I needed to grow. But I still had one thing: belief. Belief that I could be more than what they said I would become." As her words flowed, the crowd leaned in. She spoke of pain, but also of hope. She spoke of fire, but also of how dreams don't burn easily. When she finished, the room erupted into applause. People stood, clapping, cheering, some with tears in their eyes. Her speech went viral within hours. Millions watched it on their phones, their hearts stirred by her strength. In the back row, Baraka sat quietly. His eyes were full of tears, but his face was full of pride. He had made mistakes, yes, but this was his redemption. His daughter had become exactly what her mother had dreamed of. And somewhere far away, Nuru watched too. No one clapped for her. No one listened. The sound of applause was louder than anything she could ever say now. Achieng didn't just speak that day. She roared, and the world listened.